Hello everybody. Believe it or not, this is basically the last regular video of the quarter. And how fittingly to end a year of oral skills and a long quarter of oral skills than with getting to complete diatonicism in long progressions. So we basically got everything we can possibly do with diatonic harmony. Because in the fall, we're going to then move into things that are chromatic, secondary dominants, modulations, what have you. So basically, we're going to review today. There's nothing new really to talk about, but review all of our possibilities to this point. Take a look at an example of what a long progression could look like, and then I have a dictation that we can do towards the end. So let's go ahead and talk about what we've got so far. We are at the absolute capacity for harmonic diatonicism in major and in minor. In fact, at the point where there are too many possibilities for any single example. So the list that we're about to talk about, we will not really be able to see all of these things in dictations at this point. We have too many options to fit within a progression. So you kind of have to know what's all possible and then filter down to kind of hear what's actually happening, okay? Notice that we've got basically all of our triads on this chart here over to the side. It says not the only way that chords appear, of course, but this is a common procedure for a lot of our harmony, and we have basically all of this. We've gotten major 7, we've gotten the 3s, we've gotten the 6s as predominants, we've gotten the 6s as deceptive cadences, 2 versus 4, 2 diminishes versus 4 minor, etc. So that kind of relates to all diatonic triads in any inversion. Now, you will see certain triads in certain inversions more than others. So seeing a 1-6-4 is a very specific situation. Seeing a 2-6-5 is a very specific situation. That happens a lot, but in any case, it's not something that really, not all inversions are necessarily created equal, but for our purposes, anything is fair game. In addition, we've added sevenths to every single chord. So all of these chords that are our possibilities can also have sevenths and can also appear in any inversions. So not only root position 6 and 6-4, but root position 6-5, 6-3. Oh my gosh, sorry, 6-5, 4-3, and 4-2. So that's all possible. In addition, we have 2 different voicing types. We've got SATB, which is more chorale style, with 4 voices spread across soprano, alto, tenor, bass, each moving with their own lines. Then we've also got piano voicings, which is the similar principles of good voice leading within, but you've got 1 voice in the bass and 3 voices in the right hand, and those voices usually move kind of more chordally. They're closer together. So remember that there's advantages and disadvantages to both. SATB is easier to hear individual lines because they're spaced farther apart, but it can also be more difficult to hear sonority and to hear relationship because they're spread so far apart. Piano voicings make it really easy to hear the bass because you do have the bass is far separate from everything else above, but then it can be really hard to hear subtle differences in the right hand because the opposite problem happens. They're too close together. So differences all around. We've got a bunch of different cadences too. We've got deceptive cadences, 5 going to 6, cadential 6-4, where we've got this kind of that kind of sound. Half cadences, of course, ending a piece on 5 or even on 7. Plagal, which we haven't really seen as much. We've talked about it, but it doesn't happen a ton in certain specific usages and genres. But plagal, of course, is 4 going to 1. And then finally, authentic cadences, 5 to 1. We've also gotten sequential passages. So regular intervals and regular bass motion kind of deriving an entire progression. We talked about those, if not last week, then for the last 2 weeks. And then we've also now got longer passages. So we've been getting towards this moment. Today we're going to really solidify that we're at like 10 to 12 chord long dictations here. That's kind of the status quo going forward. The 5 chord dictations are going to be somewhat of a thing of a past for us. So that's it. We're here. If any of this is still fuzzy or confusing, I would definitely either schedule some time with me as an office hour or go back and revisit some of the earlier videos of the quarter, because all of this is possible, and we're going to kind of throw it all at you for the final going forward here, okay? Because then in the fall, as I said, we're going to reset, and we're going to look at, borrowing chords from other keys, and it's going to get a little bit more tricky. So for right now, all diatonic options, keep this list handy. This is a good list to keep track of. kind of your progress and how comfortable you are with this stuff. So here's an example of a progression that's very long. So this is something that I found on the internet. There's a couple voice leading things that are not, that I don't love. But in any case, notice that we've got a sequence in this one, right? We've got regular intervallic motion in our voices. We've got regular bass motion. It's a descending fifth sequence. We get our major 7 here. Notice that we've got a deceptive cadence here in the middle. That's where our voice leading problems arise. Everything shifts up a half step, but in any case. We've got our voice leading, or pardon me, we've got a deceptive cadence in the middle that then gets reset to a 2-5-1. We've got our 4-5-1, our fa, sol, do, common bass pattern we've seen. We've got a 2 half diminished with sevenths, etc. Oh, this should be a diminished. Boy, oh boy, this is just, sorry everybody, my mistake. But yeah, lots of stuff going on here. This is the kind of length of a passage you can expect. Now, if you're listening carefully and notice that it's something that's sequential, that can be a real asset to you, because notice we've got this kind of, all of our voices are moving regularly, okay? We've got, in the right hand, this kind of, right? In the left hand, we've got, right? We do have a deceptive resolution, so that gets undercut a bit. But in any case, yeah, we have our descending fifth sequence. But then instead, we go up. And then from here, we then kind of reset the rest as a 2-5-1. And so on. So this kind of length, now again, this has a sequence in it, so a lot of the harmony in this is dominated by the sequence. And because of how the sequence is designed in this particular example, there's other ways to have modified this. Every other chord, for instance, could have a seventh. Keeping this top voice in the soprano not changing would give us a seventh. In addition, we could have changed every other chord to a first inversion, right? So then it would be this kind of motion. And so on, that kind of sound. That didn't happen here, but again, remember that for sequences, those are our options. You'll never be required to identify a sequence based on just listening to it, because to get the kind of level of nuance and the amount of sequences types that there are, we just don't have time for. But if you hear something that sounds sequential, use that to your advantage, like in a passage like this. So you can boil down a long stretch of time into something relatively straightforward by doing that. In addition, this end portion here is just kind of classic, what we've been doing, since the beginning of the year, so to speak. This kind of, 4-chord SATB, standard progression here. So that's an example, things to expect. There's not really much more to say, because again, there's not really new material this week. This week is entirely review and just doing longer progressions. So we're actually at the end of the material today. Let's go ahead and conclude by doing a harmonic dictation. Okay, so here we go. 12 chords, 6 listens. Okay, I'm going to play it in piano voicings, as you can see with the first chord there. 12 chords, 6 listens. Okay, we are in G minor. Okay. Your first chord is this. Okay, so I'm going to play 3 listens normal. The 4th listen, I'm going to go ahead and roll the chords for you. And then the 4th, and then the final 2 listens, I'm going to play normal. Okay, so 6 listens, 12 chords, G minor. Everything's possible. The kitchen sink is options here. So really do your best to try to keep track of what all of our options are and kind of navigate throughout the music as we go. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was listen 1. Listen 1. Go ahead and take 30 seconds, and then we'll do listen 2. Okay. Let's do listen 2 of 6. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 30 seconds. Then we'll do listen 3. Okay, let's do listen 3 of 6. 3 of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 30 seconds. Okay, listen 4 of 6. This time I'm going to go ahead and roll all of the chords for you, okay? So hopefully if you're having a hard time hearing the inner voices on the right hand, this will help that. 1, 2, listen 4. Okay, 30 seconds, then we'll do listen 5. Okay, so for lesson 5, I'm actually going to roll the chords again, just for the sake of posterity. So, I'm going to roll the chords again for you. Really try to nail some of these kind of middle chords. The middle is always the hardest part. Okay, so I'm going to roll every chord again. This is lesson 5 of 6. 2 listens remain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take 30 seconds and we'll do our final listen. Okay, here it is. Let's do listen 6 of 6. Back to chords again. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. Take 15 or so seconds to gather your thoughts. Okay, let's take a look at this. So there is one thing that I did change in my performance. Here I changed the C to go down because while it betrayed good voice leading, it seemed to make more sense than to skip up like this. This seems better. Anyways, so beg your pardon about that. But in any case, here we go. So start right off the bat with a 1, 5, 6, 4 to 1. We've got this kind of ascending, right? Hopefully we caught that. We then go from 1 to 3, right? So your outer voice has stayed the same, but it's that inner voice. Hearing that one note change is kind of what gives it away that it's 3. In addition, it's a major chord. We've only got a couple options for major chords in a minor key. We then go to 6, but then 6 goes to 2, right? We've got a 2, 6, 5. We've got our 4, 1, right? We've also got 4 different pitches here. We've got the clash here. Up here, we've got our re is in the soprano. So as far as 2 half diminished 6 5s goes, not too bad to identify, I think. Canto 6 4. Deceptive cadence. Deceptive cadence up to 6. We go to a 4. We go to a 4 6 5. Interestingly, right? This one's kind of tricky, right? We've got 4 different pitches here. And our right hand is basically almost kind of root position like on its own. We're just missing that third, but then the third's in the bass, of course. Okay, that's probably the trickiest chord in this whole thing, I would imagine. But it is basically just a 4 chord with that 7th in the soprano. So if you hear bass and soprano and you see those 2 pitches and go, well, that looks like it could be like a 6. Well, we just had 6. Like, what's changing in the middle? That's how you can get to the 4, 6, 5. Okay, that's probably again, I think that's probably the hardest chord in this progression. Finally, then we end on 7 fully diminished. Right, we go from Mi down to Re. Our Fa stays in the same spot. We go from Do down to La. Because remember that, of course, 7 can substitute for 5 in authentic cadences. So in this case, we've got a 7 diminished 7th. Listening for that La is the giveaway. That's what makes it distinct. This versus this. Or pardon me. This versus this. Right? Subtle difference. Not a huge difference, but still a difference. And so on. So again, there's so much going on in that, and to belabor every single point would just be to review the entire quarters all the way through. But this is kind of an example that has a bunch of things that we've looked at, not necessarily everything, but a bunch of things that we've looked at so far. So this is the kind of progression to expect going forwards. This is the kind of progression that you can expect on your final, for instance. So 10 to 12 chords of either piano or SATB voicings, and all that harmony is figured out. So nice work though. We've gotten a lot covered this quarter especially, but this year in general. I mean, we've gone from just 1-5-1, you know, to doing all of this. So we've really made some tremendous progress here. Next week is the final already. So this is Friday, week 9. For us, the course ends in week 10. So there will be an overview video on Monday, just like the midterm. So I'll go over all of this again in more detail and provide some stuff. But the final will be the same format as the midterm. Monday, overview video and a signing of the prepared singing. Wednesday, a Zoom session with me where you sing your prepared piece and then I give you a piece to sight sing. And then Friday is our take-home dictation, which you will only have Friday to do. It'll be posted on Friday morning and then assigned like midnight Friday night. So just as a heads up for that. Your final homework assignment of the quarter is posted to GatroSpace right now. It's due Monday, June 1st at 8 a.m., please. Monday, June 1st at 8 a.m. So final homework of the quarter, the final exam. We're in the home stretch here. We're not even in the home stretch. We're rounding third. Well, I guess it is the home stretch. Whatever. Metaphors. So yeah, we're basically at the end of it. So it's been a good quarter. We'll do more tearful goodbyes on the Monday video and during our Zoom session, but this is basically it. This is the end of content for the quarter. The rest of week 10 is all just review and prep for your final. So if you have any questions, if you're struggling with Megamit, if you're struggling with any component of this, rhythm, melody, harmony, all, even none, you just want to, touch base over Zoom, just let me know. I'm happy to schedule office hours whenever you need. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful quarter, and I will still see you next time.